You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, the internet? It's producer Kyle. How's it going? I was going to wait for you to answer. That could get awkward, though. This may be the first time, if you've never tuned into the EXP Dance Party, that we're going to be talking almost exclusively about music on the channel. That and the whole James Gunn thing, but mostly the music and the James Gunn thing. And, you know, there may be some James Gunn talk, but mostly music, but James Gunn. And literally anything else we want to talk about. This is Hot Takes, a show where you can call in and tell me what you think, and I will tell you about the thoughts that are happening in my head as well. Note to self. If you ever have to stifle a burp live on the air, Jay will think it's you pausing for effect and run your opener. Just know that's a thing. Anyway, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Like, not a lot happened in the nerd world this past weekend, right? Since really last Tuesday, everything has been one thing, except for the fact that now apparently that movie Up is a real thing, or at least it was until it got to South Carolina. 2.5 hours east of me, they're burning off noxious gas because a train went off the tracks, and everybody in Pennsylvania has to leave. I don't know. It's a mess. What up, Kenneth? It's a mess. But needless to say, there has been some stuff happen here in the nerd world, and we're going to talk about it. If you want to get in on the conversation, there'll be a phone number that will come up in a little bit once I kind of set up what we're going to talk about, and then you'll be able to call in and tell me what you're thinking. A couple of things have happened. One, we had the James Gunn announcement, which happened last Tuesday, which I'm going to tell the story for the first time on this show of how that went down. Because it was not at all what we had intended to have happen, but it worked out all right. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Grammys. And the reason I want to talk about the Grammys is because I, as much as I love comic books, love music maybe more. It's kind of a real tough thing to figure out, right? Which was my first passion, music or comics? But they're both right there. And some stuff happened as it relates to the Grammys last night that I would like to talk about. And I want to get your opinion on. And so we're going to break this down. It's all going to be the same thing. And the question is, the big question, Jay, if you could change this banner and put it up for me, that'd be great. The big question for tonight is, what is your responsibility for media you haven't consumed? What is your responsibility for media you haven't consumed? And we're going to start here. James Gunn's announcement last week brought us the announcement of kind of chapter 1, excuse me, Gods and Monsters over at DC. And there are some things that I haven't consumed yet from the previous DC era that I think are going to be instructive for the new DC era. And here's what I mean by that. One of the things that they announced was DC Elseworlds, which are things that are to come out in the pop culture world that are so good that they need to come out, but they're not conducive to the overall DC branding. And in this world exists things like Todd Phillips's The Joker. Or did Todd Phillips do the Batman? Which one did the Batman and which one did the Joker?
Matt Reeves did the Batman. Todd Phillips did the Joker.
Keanu Reeves did the Batman. Todd Phillips did the Joker. Got it.
Yeah.
By the way, Keanu Reeves is Batman. Just throwing that out there. I think that would be kind of dope. You know, especially if he could still fly and bullet time and jump through the Matrix. Who knows? Anyway, so movies that are going to take place in the DC Elseworlds are The Joker. I have not seen The Joker because I said at the time, and I stand by this, if I want to see a Joker, I'll watch Batman the Animated Series. Because, like, the bar is somewhere up there. Scarlet Witch would say no more Batman and save us all a lot of time. Not wrong, Tom Hutchison. But this is my question, right? If I don't watch something, what is my responsibility in terms of having opinions on future things? Like, I haven't seen the first Aquaman movie. But can I still have an opinion on the next Aquaman movie? And the reason I say that is that as you look at this thing that James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing, there's going to be very little that already exists that seem to matter. Right? You're going to have Aquaman. Tom says you have no responsibility to watch anything. You can judge something on its own existence. I believed that to be true until I expounded this topic to the Grammys, which is where we're going. I saw reporting last night that an unknown Americana and blues musician beat Beyonce for Song of the Year. That was the reporting. That musician was Bonnie Raitt. 13-time Grammy winner, Bonnie Raitt. Is it the responsibility of someone like me who comes on here and tells you their opinions to at least consume the things that I haven't consumed so that I'm forming a whole opinion? Is it the responsibility of the person who's reporting on Bonnie Raitt beating Beyonce to at the very least listen to Bonnie Raitt and recognize, oh crap, this person is a legend? Or do they just be like, well, I'm going to let you finish, but Beyonce had the best record of the year? I don't know the answer to that question. Especially for myself, because I tend to not think the second Aquaman is going to be all that great. But I haven't seen the first one. But I think any movie that you have to cut a major character out of because of their personal life is going to make that movie suffer. I don't know. But do I now have a responsibility to go back and watch the first one so that I can say, okay, because the first one was what it was, even if the second one sucks, it deserves its place? I feel like if you don't, it's your responsibility to at least admit you have not consumed said media. And that's fair, right, Sean? Like, I think that's a fair sort of caveat. Is to say, you know what? I haven't watched it. I don't know. Like, I didn't like the if I don't like the second Aquaman movie, I have to come on here and say, look, I didn't watch the first one, but the second one sucked. Or I will give a great example to this from my own life here. I have not seen all of the Alien movies. Just haven't. But when I went and saw that last one that they put out, I went like, this is the greatest movie that's ever made. Like, I really did connect with it. But then my friends were like, dude, it sucks compared to the first one. And vice versa. The first Pet Sematary was so great, but the second one sucks so bad. So do I need to at least say, look, I don't have any point of reference? Okay, see, Tom, I don't know that Alien Covenant was a remake of the first Alien. And a sequel can be good or bad regardless of the first film. And that's true. I guess my question is it the responsibility of the person giving their opinion to give you background on their opinion? Do you care or not if I've seen the first movie in a franchise or not? I'll be honest. I think I've probably only seen 2/3 of Iron Man 3. I kind of skip over the parts with Mickey Rourke. Or is it Mickey Rooney? Anyway. Opinion weighs more with context. See, and that's what I wonder, right? Is this a thing that we need to go, okay, when we go back and look at the James Gunn release stuff, is it, okay, I've not seen Peacemaker. I've seen most of it. I haven't watched it all. Sean Butler, that was the point of the joke, buddy. I've seen so little of Iron Man 3, I don't remember who's in it. Anyway, I've not seen Peacemaker. Does my lack of having seen Peacemaker, does that affect my opinion on Waller? This is the stuff I'm thinking about. Tom says, I won't see Peacemaker. I saw enough in Suicide Squad and I was out. Kind of same. My problem is this. Any show that uses 80s hair metal from bands like Faster Pussycat as a plot device immediately make me feel like I'm back working at the rock station and dealing with guys who think it's still 1984. So I get triggered and turn it off. Sean says, unless a reason that you didn't get something in said movie was answered in the previous one. Okay, that's fair. I've been having this quandary, though, for the last 24 hours. After watching the Grammys, which, granted, last night's Grammys were the best they've been in a long time. It got back to being an award show as opposed to a, I don't even know what you want to call it. A pat on the back. Yeah. Pat on the back festival. But, I had friends who were nominated, so I wanted to watch. And the first thing I want to talk about from the Grammys, just throwing it out there, is a huge congratulations to Amanda Waller. See how it all ties back in? Amanda Waller, Viola Davis, on achieving the last stem of her EGOT. She won the Grammy last night for Best Audiobook Narration, which for some of these actors is what you're going to get, right? Like, it isn't the days of, a guy having a #1 hit or a Grammy-nominated record and being in a movie and a TV show are gone. So you got to kind of, okay, sure. Best audiobook narration, good enough. You still got your Grammy. But for Album of the Year last night, Just Like That by Bonnie Raitt won. And a lot of people were confused as to why a current pop star didn't. And be that pop star Beyonce or Adele or Lizzo, all of whom had great records. The winner was Bonnie Raitt, and people didn't know how to report on it. because I don't think anybody who's writing for any of these magazines or websites or any of these things are listening to Bonnie Raitt. And so it got me thinking, what are my responsibilities for media that I haven't consumed? So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about this a little more. I'm going to give it a little more context, frame it up a little bit more as we continue here. But I wanted to mention, before we take our first break, a couple of things that are important to you as the viewer of the experience. First, we are dangerously close to 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. 1,000 was a big deal. 1,500 is a big deal. Every benchmark now here on out is a big deal for us. So we want to keep pushing to get to 1,500. And when we do, across all of our shows, or most of our shows, we will be giving away a slabbed comic book. We are going to have 15 $100 value graded comics that we are going to be giving away to you on all of our shows. But that doesn't start until we get to 1,500. So if you are not subscribed already over on the YouTube, go over there, click subscribe, and click the bell. Then when you're done with that, head over to Instagram and make sure you subscribe to us on Instagram as well. We're very, 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 very close to being able to go live on Instagram. When we can do that, these shows will be live on Instagram. So you'll be able to watch us over there if you're on Instagram as well. And finally, we have a new show starting a week from this Wednesday. 1 week from this Wednesday, brand new show, 9 o'clock Eastern. Now, some of you may be going, but Kyle, that's where Wednesday Warriors is. It's true. Wednesday Warriors is no longer part of the experience. They're moving on to a different era of their broadcasting career, their career here, making their own thing, going off and doing it on their own, and we wish them incredibly well. Wednesday Warriors is a great show. Joey and Ambrosia are top grade people. We're really going to miss having them around, but they need to go do what's best for them. And we have a new show jumping right in to replace it. More on that when I can tell you, hopefully tomorrow. But for right now, we're just going to let you know a new show is starting a week from Wednesday at 9 o'clock here on The Experience. All right, we're going to come back and we're going to dig into this question. What about what you consume in media and your responsibility to it, and why don't more people know who Bonnie Raitt is? Right after these messages here on The Experience. You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Go follow The Experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
You just finished the last episode of your favorite news show, and you just have to talk about it. But all your friends are ghosting you because of that incident last week at the buffet. Oh, you know the one. What you did to that chowder. Ugh. Keeps me up at night. So what do? Join writer Dan Wickline as he breaks down all your favorite pop culture media. Whether it's a review of the latest nerdy TV show or a dive back into the history of your favorite comic characters, Dan's ready to discuss all the hottest topics live. Join the conversation as Dan live streams Tuesday through Thursday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. The Dan Wickline Show on The Experience. Comic culture and sales.
What's up, the internet? Welcome back. This is Hot Takes. I don't know why I said it that way. That was kind of douchey. I apologize. I don't know why I said it that way. Anyway, welcome back in. I want to give you guys just another quick reminder. Tomorrow at 5, we have the Dan Wickline show. I'm not sure what Dan's talking about tomorrow. Am I supposed to be on the air tomorrow? I don't remember. We'll find out. Anyway, the Dan Wickline show at 5. At 6, I'll be on the air with Jay, Dan, and Sean. I believe he's off work this week. We will be talking about books that are in stores this week. Following that will be Minute to Skim It. Following that will be Mint Hunter Comics and Country Roads Comics. Then Wednesday, we have another full day, but we have a little gap in the middle now. So just be aware of that for 1 week before the new show starts on Wednesday. All right, so back to where this conversation all started, which is I'm watching the Grammy coverage. And again, you know, Tom Hutchison said it best. A lot of people are not interested in the Grammys, and I understand that. The Grammys have been sort of a let's blow smoke up our own butts festival for a couple of years. I'll say it. The Grammys have been very much a kind of a mutual admiration celebration rather than an award for musical achievement. This year was better. But the reason I'm watching is that I had a couple of friends who are nominated for things. And one of them won, which was really cool. But you watch the coverage, and what I noticed was that many of the writers and bloggers and people who post who we would consider experts in modern music were talking like they'd never heard of Bonnie Raitt and how they couldn't believe that Willie Nelson was winning awards, or Edgar Winter, or Ozzy Osbourne. Like, just because these people were old, they didn't deserve the award. And so it got me thinking about why that would be. And the real answer is it's that these are not things that these people are listening to. Right? The people who are reporting on this are listening to Beyonce and Lizzo and Harry Styles and Doja Cat. They're not listening to Americana. They're not listening to spoken jazz. They're not listening to, roots music, which is an interesting thing in that regard. It's an interesting thing to talk about. But it got me thinking about comic books and how so often what happens is we stop reading a comic book because, there's an issue we don't like, or, we got busy, or, forgot to get put on my pull list, and then we never pick it back up. And especially something like Saga, right? This book Saga, or these books that have taken long hiatuses in the middle. Something is Killing the Children. I think probably suffered from this a little. Took a break after the first 15 issues to do, the other tertiary or the other offshoot books. And then the main book, when they came back to it, wasn't the same. And I don't think it's gotten the heat back that it once had. I don't think that it's gotten captured that spark. And I think this happens a lot in comic books, especially. We stop for whatever reason reading, and we never come back to it. Same with music. We stop listening to a kind of music or a certain artist, and we never really come back to it. Or because it isn't part of our repertoire, we don't think to go and look. I think in comics, it's incredibly common to read the same books you've always read. Well, I've always read Spider-Man, so why would I pick up Green Arrow? I've always read Batman. So why would I bother with this book from, a small press publisher? Because it's always something it's something we've always consumed. We don't necessarily feel the need to go outside of it. So it goes back to my big question for the night. What is your responsibility to media you've not consumed? And the consensus is, by and large, that you have no responsibility to media you've not consumed. Doesn't matter to you. Shouldn't matter to you just because you haven't seen it. That doesn't affect what you have seen. But it does affect how you compare what you've seen to other things you've seen. Which I recognize that sentence is a little hard to follow, so I'll explain it. If you want to call in and talk about this, 567-318-6507. 567-318-6507. So here's what I mean by that. You compare everything against everything else. You just do. So, for instance, I compare the Iron Man movies against every other movie that I've ever seen. If I haven't seen a movie, I can't compare something to it. And my sample size is smaller. So if I haven't seen it, then how can I can't really judge everything on a real curve. So I guess what I'm getting at, right, is you have to compare everything you're consuming with everything you've seen. But if you don't consume things, or you purposefully ignore parts of the canon of that thing, then you're purposefully giving yourself a false result, or an uninformed result, I should say. So again, I'm just going to pick a category here from last night's Grammys. This is Best Song Written for Visual Media. Be Alive by Beyonce from King Richard. Carolina from Where the Crawdads Sing by Taylor Swift. Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick, which is by Lady Gaga. Keep Rising from The Woman King. Nobody Like You from Turning Red by Billie Eilish. And the winner, We Don't Talk About Bruno by Lin-Manuel Miranda. The only one of those songs that I could tell you what it sounds like is We Don't Talk About Bruno. And that's because of TikTok. So if I say that We Don't Talk About Bruno didn't deserve to win that award, what am I comparing it against? I feel like we need, as a society, or especially as a pop culture society, to start being real clear on what we kind of talked about before. The weight our opinions carry and how much more weight context gives to them. I kind of teased it before the break, and it's a true thing. I don't understand why people don't know who Bonnie Raitt is. Why people don't know the history of the thing. Does anybody out there have an idea as to why people don't know the history of the kind of media they claim to like? Why people don't know who Bonnie Raitt is, or why people don't understand why Willie Nelson should be winning country awards these days? And again, this is another thing that I feel like relates to comics in this way, is you hear often about so-and-so is the next great creator. So-and-so is the next big deal. I remember when it was Peach Momoko. And before that, Tyler Kirkham. And some of these guys who, their name would be bandied about as, oh, this is the person who's going to change comic art forever. When the last person to really do that was probably Steve Ditko. Maybe Todd McFarlane. Jim Lee, maybe. But the reality is that the art hasn't changed that much. So why don't people know about the people who came before? One of the best examples of this, in my opinion, is when people look at Batman, how the Batman comic looks today. You know, your Greg Capullo Batmans, your more recent Batman runs, and how important the look of that Batman was determined by these guys who worked on the character in the 80s and 90s. And before that, how much a creator like Dick Giordano or Neil Adams or Carmine Infantino influenced and changed that character. And I don't know how many people who you walk into a comic book store who are looking to buy Batman keys or rare collectible valuable Batman keys are out there looking for Carmine Infantino and Shelley Moldoff, because they don't know the history. They want Mike Deodato Jr. They want Greg Capullo. They want these new names, but they don't know the history and they don't recognize the value of that history. So again, with our big question, what is your responsibility to media that you've not consumed? Are you responsible for knowing the history? We go back to the Alien analogy we were making earlier. Am I responsible for knowing the history of the Alien movies before I can judge the Alien movie? Or a new Alien movie? Am I responsible for knowing the history of the character Aquaman before I go see Aquaman? And if I am, then what is considered, what is the canon, or what is the thing that I need to know before I go see this Aquaman movie? Do I just need to read New 52 Justice League and say, okay, I'm ready to go see the Aquaman movie? Or do I need to go back and start, back in the 70s? I don't really know the answer to that. So what is your responsibility when it comes to this idea of knowing the history of the thing you claim to be a fan of? Now, I'm not saying that everybody who cheered for Brandi Carlile last night at the Grammys, or who cheers for John Cena as the Peacemaker, needs to know the history of female-led rock music or DC Comics, especially characters like the Peacemaker. I'm not saying that. But are you responsible for at least trying to learn it, trying to understand where it came from, before you consider yourself an expert, before you give your opinion, before you get out there and you start saying, well, this is what I think they should have done? Are you responsible for that? And I'm not saying that you have to do it. That's not what I'm asking. But do you feel like the responsible thing to do is to say that? Five, 567-318-6507. 567-318-6507. If you want to give us a buzz and talk about this. I said we would talk about the James Gunn stuff, and we kind of have. There wasn't a whole lot of other news and a whole lot of other stuff happening this weekend. I think the world had kind of been holding its breath for this James Gunn announcement. And now that it's happened, people are kind of, I don't want to say relaxing, but they're kind of coming down from the high. And so I think we're going to start seeing more releases and more news as the weeks go on here. Jay says, I recently bought All-Star Superman based on how everyone talked about it, and just because I'm a Superman fan. While I liked it, I found Superman Unchained was better. Not sure if that's totally on topic. Understood, Jay. And here's my question, though. Like, you bought All-Star Superman. Is it a recent All-Star Superman?
It's the collected.
Right,
like
but is it the
hardcover.
original All-Star Supermans from like the 70s?
No, it's the Grant Morrison.
Yeah, it's the Grant Morrison All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess my question is, okay, you're saying that you preferred Superman Unchained to All-Star Superman, but did you go back and look at any of the old All-Star Supermans?
No.
Do you think having looked at them would have changed your opinions on the new All-Star Superman?
It might. Like I said, it's not that I thought this was like a bad book by any means, but the way that it was being touted as like the definitive Superman story, I guess just, like I said, Superman fan, and that alone, I was like, well, maybe I better pick this up before, I can't buy it anymore.
Right.
So maybe there's a little FOMO in there.
Right. See, but that's the question I'm trying to get some input on here. And you're right. You don't know. Right? You don't know if you went back and read All-Star Comics, or you went back and read the DC All-Star stuff, or DC Presents, or any of the old stuff that kind of led to this All-Star Superman. Would it change your opinion of the current All-Star Superman, or the Grant Morrison All-Star Superman? We have no way of knowing. And the question becomes, again, what is our responsibility to the media we've not consumed? Do we need to know the history of All-Star Superman in order to really recognize how great Grant Morrison's is? Or does not knowing the history mean you can just accept it for exactly what's on the page without it being clouded by anything else? So for me, when we talk about how Kyle doesn't like any Marvel movies, the answer to that question isn't that I don't like Marvel movies. I love Marvel movies. I hate that they aren't the characters I expect them to be presented in the way I expect them to be presented. When you have an encyclopedic backstory or an encyclopedic knowledge of a character's history, you can't help but be informed by it. Right? I go watch Spider-Man and I'm going, that's not how that's supposed to happen. Because I just know the answer. And so we get asked about, well, can't you just judge it based on its own thing? Yeah. Sean Butler's calling me. What, Sean?
Well, why not call in and talk to you?
Well, I mean, that's fair. I just assumed it was going to be an off-topic conversation.
Oh, no.
Like we were going to talk about Jay because he can't do anything about this conversation right now.
Nah.
Like he has.
I'll try to step in based on the Superman.
I laughed so hard at my own joke, I'm choking myself. What's up, buddy?
So I will say this, speaking as someone who is trying to learn, because you've been helping the media side of it, but also as just a fan. I will say that not knowing anything about characters has helped me to enjoy a movie, maybe just as it's presented to me, as someone who's maybe they're trying to bring in. But then as I've gone and tried to read source material, it gets confusing, and then you have a hard time enjoying some movies because you've learned the source material, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question, I feel like you could say yes or no. The one side makes you just be able to take in the movie for what it is. The other side is like you, who has all this knowledge, and it makes it hard to take in the movie because they're not giving you what's actually in the book.
Right.
And I wonder, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's exactly the question I'm asking, right? Do I have a responsibility to you, Sean, as a fan of something, to tell you, oh, I didn't like Spider-Man because this, and this is not how it's supposed to happen? Like, do I have that responsibility as a person who has a knowledge in this thing? And then at the same time, do I have a responsibility to keep my mouth shut?
I think you could give your opinion, and then, like, if you don't like it, and give a reason why, but maybe caveat it with, but I can understand how someone who maybe doesn't know can come in and enjoy the film, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, so I mean, that's the question I'm trying to answer. Is if I come on the air here and say, I think that the idea of doing a trying to think of one that I can make a good example. Okay. A Wonder Woman television show is bad because my knowledge of Wonder Woman says this, and this is supposed to be what's going to happen before Wonder Woman. And I say that out loud, and that spoils your viewing of the show. Have I done you a disservice by telling you what I think is supposed to happen? Or have I done the right thing by trying to educate you prior to your consumption?
I think you've done the right thing trying to educate someone so that they can have a better understanding of a character when they come into something like that. Especially on a character like Wonder Woman, who doesn't have a lot of that origin or stuff like that that's been out before.
I mean, I suppose.
So I think.
Yeah, I hear you. Go ahead.
But yeah, no, I think that you as a person with knowledge, I think it's good that you do share your opinions and your knowledge on stuff like that personally.
Yeah, I Don't Like Comics has been collecting comics for 40 years and cards, beta tapes, VHS tapes, CDs, Blu-rays, vintage movie posters, and lobby cards. I think my hobby give me a clear, real opinion. And that's what I'm saying, is that, like, we kind of started the show with me talking about how I wasn't sure what my first love was, be it comics, be it music, and how it really bothers me when people say, oh, this comic thing, you should just judge based on what it is. And then turn around on music and they're, well, Beyonce didn't win, and that's a real travesty. This other person, who's a, blues and Americana musician, unknown blues and Americana musician beats Beyonce. It's, again, it really bothers me. It's Bonnie Raitt.
Right.
So the knowledge is important, and it does give us a clear, real opinion, but what do we do about the stuff we don't know? And so, Sean, I appreciate you calling in, buddy. If you want to hang out, we got to take a break. But okay. I will say this, Sean will be with us tomorrow, right?
Yes, I'll be on there with you.
On In Stores This Week, where we talk about books that are in stores this week. So that's tomorrow at 6:00 Eastern, 5:00 Central. And then, guys, I want you guys to know this. This is important. There will be no Fat Jack show on Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday, Fat Jack's is taking a day off. So we will be taking a day off with them in that regard. So just be aware of that. Head over to the THEXP Live, theexplive.com. Check out our website. Click on our merch store. Click on our schedule. Click on Comic Shop Locator. All of these great things are available right from our website, theexplive.com, THEXPLIVE.com. Check it out. We'll be right back. I think Sean's going to hang with us. We'll be right back after this message from these commercials that I made. Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, A promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
What's up, the internet? Welcome back to Hot Takes. I am producer Kyle. Welcome back in, everybody. We are talking about what is our responsibility in terms of media we haven't consumed as it relates to media we are consuming. And I will frame this whole question back up here in a second. But before I do that, I want to remind you guys about Thursday night's sketch-up show with Mel and Mog. Thursday night, 10 Eastern, 10 to midnight. Mel and Mog bring you original art that you can pick up on Thursday night show. There's also a Space Cadets episode just before that at 8 o'clock Eastern, following What's in the Box. So there you go. Wednesday, Dan and I will likely be talking about Legend of Vox Machina and Poker Face on the Dan Wickline show. So tune in for that so you can hear me talk more about how I want to hear Natasha Leone read me the phone book. All right. We got Sean on the line. We're going to bring him back on in just a second. But before we do, Edward von Bissenstein. J.J.R. Tolkien's books have been my favorite books ever since I was a kid. I'm well-versed in all things Tolkien. That being said, I had to bury all of that in order to enjoy the movies, because if I didn't, I would hate the movies for being so different. By suspending my book knowledge, I was able to embrace the Lord of the Rings movies for what they are. So it's a double-edged sword. On the flip side, I couldn't enjoy the Sandman show until you and Dan and I talked about it and explained what I needed to know. All right, I'm bringing Sean back on. So I like what Ed said, right? That there is this double-edged sword kind of thing. And again, that's what I'm trying to work through. Like, because part of this for me is that I've always been one to say, this is what I know. You need to know it. And if you don't know it, then you're an uneducated swine. And keep in mind, I love the taste of pigs, but I hate pigs. So it's just a thing. And that's not true. I know it to be untrue. I know it's not true. But what it was my way of saying was, I've spent so much time and energy learning this stuff. Spent so much effort becoming an expert in the things I claim to be an expert in. And then something has come out for the mass consumption that my expertise says is garbage. And so I say it's garbage, and people are like, you just don't like good things. My answer is no, I don't like things to claim to be one thing and are actually another. I don't like liars. And the DC or the MCU is a liar. Especially that Thanos guy. But it's that thing that Ed said, right? It's that it's got its double-edged sword. Sometimes you have to be able to put it away. So here's my question as it relates to what are our responsibilities to media we haven't consumed and media we have. When we've consumed something, when you know something, Sean, how do you factor it away?
If I know it really well,
Right. So imagine they made a movie about your job.
oh Lord.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be a boring movie. I think my movie about my job would be incredibly boring, and they keep making shows and TV about it. But anyway, if they made a movie about your job, something you know implicitly well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you pack away the things you know and just accept it for what it is, or would you struggle with that?
As I'm watching it, I probably could struggle with it, but also snicker in some aspects of it because I'll know that's flat out just not true. Much like I imagine how like snipers or anybody who does that kind of stuff use movies.
Right. I was watching an
and whatnot.
interview with Tyler James Williams, I think is his name. He's on Abbott Elementary. He was the guy who played Chris Rock and Everybody Hates Chris. And he was talking about how his dad was a cop. So like he and his brothers and sisters couldn't enjoy cop movies because his dad would just be like, that's not how it would ever happen. Why is that guy saying he's going to get shot? Why is he standing there like that? You know,
I will say this though, after there is a very well-known Marvel movie that I will say that after I actually read the source material of the same name, I can't go back and look at the movie.
Is it Captain America: The Civil War?
Way. Yes.
Yeah.
When I finally read Civil War and going back and looking at the movie, it's like, okay, now I get like what everyone was trying to tell me beforehand.
I've been screaming this since the day the movie came out.
Jenna says hi, by the way.
They fucking took down all of my favorite fucking characters. You can't.
Jenna, you're on the air. Don't swear.
She's on the air.
I'm so sorry.
Don't swear.
She's on the air.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was losing my shenanigans.
Oh, Lord.
Guys, that's Jenna, a.k.a. the General, from the show before this. Woo! We apologize.
Jenna is one of the people.
Right. As the guys on Ted Lasso would say, we apologize for the salty language.
Sorry.
She right, though. She 100% right, though.
Right, though.
Like, she 100% right every second. I've been screaming this since day one. Every bit of that is correct.
Yeah. Sorry for everybody.
No, you're good. It's just funny. But no, it's true though. Like they took out the best parts. They ruined that. They ruined that story with that movie.
Well, let's talk about another huge MCU thing, Ultron. Who actually created Ultron? It was not Tony Stark. If I'm not mistaken, right? It's Hank Pym.
Yep.
So yeah,
right. There's a number of things like that, right? And it's if you know the history, then your consumption of the current has the fullest picture of what it should be, right? You could see the whole board. You see what it's supposed to be, what it is, what it isn't. When you don't know the history, you can't do that. So, okay, we had flipped the question around, right? So what is your responsibility to media you've consumed? What is your responsibility to media you haven't consumed? So, Sean, you just mentioned it. You read Civil War after having seen Civil War, and it changed your opinion of the film.
Mm-hmm.
How do I put this in a way that's not leading the witness? If you had seen Civil War, Captain America Civil War, after having read Civil War, how would you have put Civil War away in your brain?
I probably would have put it as like, okay, here is Avengers 1.5. They're just trying to introduce new characters that they're bringing into the MCU in that way, because I could probably compartmentalize it like that. Because there were still some aspects of the movie that were enjoyable. I'm not saying the movie isn't enjoyable. It's just not anywhere factually close.
Right.
But to me, I probably would have ended up just saying, this isn't Civil War. This is literally just like, here's Marvel's Avengers 1.5.
Right, it's Avengers 2.
The next one.
Right.
Yeah.
It really should have been Avengers 2.
That's basically what I would have said. And that's literally really all it was to me.
Yeah.
Now that I'm going back to think on it like that. So.
Jenna, none of us disagreed with you. We just were not prepared for the flurry of
Stuff.
I was trying to come up with an F-based alliteration, but I couldn't. Anyway, this is what I'm saying, right, Sean? And you just said it in the same way that I think I should have been saying it for years. It's not that I don't enjoy the movies. It's not that I don't like them. It's that I don't like what they are.
Right.
I would much rather, and this is true. I spent the day today, and this is the fun little story as we get ready to sign off here. I spent the day today investigating how to code ad space onto our website for Google. If that sounds boring as sin to anyone else, you're right, it is. It was one of the most tedious activities I have to do for this job, is working in the back end of our website. And it's not that I don't love doing it, but it's that I don't, it just takes forever. I would much rather spend the afternoon in the movie theater watching Black Widow on repeat, which is one of the worst Marvel Cinematic movies ever made, than do that.
And it's funny though when you think about it. Like Captain Marvel to me was not that great, but I know next to nothing about that character.
Well, and so that's the other part. And we if we had more time, we'd get to this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy movies more when you know less? When it comes to superheroes, especially, is ignorance truly bliss? And maybe that's what we'll talk about next week on the show.
Yeah, because I can definitely answer that one too.
Yeah, is ignorance really bliss when it comes to not knowing this stuff, or is there a level of I need to know that really can inform what you're doing? So, Sean, I am going to let you go. Thank you for calling in to be on the show. Thank you to everybody who's participating in the comments. I want to remind you guys very quickly that we have programming 7 days a week here on The Experience. Saturday nights, 10 o'clock Eastern. Brainy and I, both behind the scenes, with Brainy spinning the tunes on the EXP Dance Party. We are the only pop culture network on the internet that has its own Saturday night post-con in the hotel lobby dance party with a professional DJ. So I think that's pretty cool. Stay tuned for all the great stuff we have here on The Experience. And as always, Wednesdays are new comic book days in your local comic shops. Head into your local comic shop. Find them by visiting comicshoplocator.com, typing in the area code where you are, zip code where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you so that you can go and visit them. There are great comic book shops all over the country. Hopefully one not far from you. Go visit it. And if you can't, just keep coming back here. We'll be here for you. So, for producer Jay, for Sean for calling in, Jenna, Ed, I hate comics. I don't like comics. I just made your username meaner. I apologize. I don't like comics. Tom Hutchison, everybody who was in the comments, everybody watching at home, everybody who hit a like or a heart or a love or any of that kind of stuff, I appreciate you all. We will be back next week at this time. And hopefully by next week at this time, we will unveil our Hot Takes t-shirt. We'll see you then. Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.